The oral tradition of storytelling is the oldest of all of our traditions. Long before the flute, the rattle, and even the drum, there were storytellers. And unlike today, those storytellers were not thought of as just entertainers. They were teachers and historians. Having no written language, it was storytelling that preserved our legends, our history, and much of our culture. But storytelling was also used as a method of teaching the young ones, and sometimes reminding the not-so-young ones how to live in a good way.
All right, I think we're live here, Uncle. Sorry about that, you guys. We'll get right started. Go ahead.
Thank you, Father, that we can enough neon ota aski. Thank you. Be with us as we bring hope, fun, information about our people, our chuckwagon drivers, our horse whisperers, our native entertainers. Thank you. We can only do that with your help. Thank you, Father. Hey, hey.
Hey, all right. Oh, there we go. Myself there. All right, you guys, welcome to day. I don't even know what date it is. It's February 8th. And like I said, we are here at Clifford Wuttunee School, are going live from 12 Saskatchewan time till 2 p.m. Saskatchewan time. And we are going live Monday to Friday and trying to bring you Indigenous storytelling from all aspects and from different other backgrounds besides the Korean narrative. We also have my Uncle Winston here who will be hosting Mondays and Fridays. And we might bring on guests with him. It's kind of just going with the flow right now and getting in people as we go. But we do have an exciting lineup coming up this week, so looking forward to that. But I think we do have a guest coming on today, correct, Nikki?
Yeah, we're supposed to be having Todd on today. He hasn't logged on yet, so we'll kind of hang out till he gets here. He is at work today, so he was trying to fit it in throughout his day. So,
All right. Uncle, how are you doing today? Sunset, good morning.
Well, good morning there. Good to see you. Yeah, and I actually have my iPad open on Todd. Nikki, do you have your iPad there?
No, I don't, but I can Google it. What did you want me to?
Well, I've got my iPad right here. Do you want me to start reading about him? Yeah, why don't I read about him? And then when he gets in there,
go ahead. Yeah, you can start.
All right, then. Okay. Todd Baptiste, in 2016, racing for a chance to be Canadian Pro Chuckwagon champion. Todd had a successful 2019 Campede Stampede, and not only finishing second, but did it in very good time. So he actually won. So 19 and 20, when you think about it, they haven't had it since then, 21. So he's 3 years as a champion by default. All right. But the first year was by for sure. All right. So here he is here anyway. So.
Is he coming on? Did you message him, Nick?
I'm messaging him right now just to check up. Let's just kind of roll with it, and we'll bring him on when he's able to come on.
And just you guys, if you are in Saskatchewan, you're in a deep freeze, and if you can, bring in your pets. Bring in your dogs, your cat.
What I read about him,
yeah.
What I read about him was that he was very successful since he was brought on by his father, Mike, I guess. And then Edgar won. Edgar came on to the state Calgary, and he was presented the winner that year. And then the next, I think, a couple of days later, when Todd won another event, he took Edgar on stage. So they said that in the interview, they said that everybody is like a family. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody's like he said, our horses are like our family. We know the ones that are lazy. We know the ones that are really good. Nikki, you would know all.
Is he freezing or is that me?
Well, I think it's him. It's not me.
Uncle, if you can hear us, you're freezing.
Oh.
Just like the cold weather in Saskatchewan. I think he's frozen.
I am freezing?
Oh, yeah, your picture's frozen. Can you hear us? If you can, yeah, your picture's frozen. This is what happens, you guys, when we go live. Anything can happen. You're in and out. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It's got to be on your end. It's okay here.
Is he freezing,
Here.
Nikki, or is it mine?
Good here.
No, he is.
Yours.
I don't know. He's kind of cutting in and out. I can hear you, Nathan, and we're not in the same place. I'm at my home. You're at your home.
Yeah, Uncle, I think it's your end there. Okay. And it's the cold weather. Literally, the cold weather. I noticed when we do broadcast on cold days, the internet is kind of crappy.
Well, Nikki, you better talk then further. You go ahead and talk, Nikki.
Okay, so I'm not sure where you were going with it, but I think you were talking about that sense of family when you're in an organization like that, whether it be hockey or Chuckwagons or rodeo family. You're right. You do get to spend a lot of time with these kinds of people that you have within your sport, and they do become family. You know, like you spend pretty much every weekend throughout the spring, summer, and fall with them, and you know, you carry those friendships on for years to come. I know it's like that with the rodeo family for sure, and I've seen it with the Chuckwagon family. For me, I didn't grow up with the Chuckwagons. But I'm learning a lot about it. As same thing with the Indian relay. For me, I'm like rodeo is more what I know, but there's definitely that sense of family, you know, because you're traveling along with these people every weekend. You spend a great deal of time with them, and I actually think it's a really good way to spend your summers, and it's really good for the kids, and they get to, you know, to experience all this and live it firsthand.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I think he's back now. There you go, Uncle. Yeah, you're doing good now. Now your internet's good now.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you turn the heat on, huh? All right. So they had an interview with Todd Baptiste.
Yeah, we were supposed to bring Todd on today, so hopefully I messaged him and we're waiting for him.
I can't hear it. I can't open it up. But what happened anyway is that, yeah, that's what he was saying, that And Mike had raced, that's Todd's father, and then his brother Edgar had won at Calgary, and now Todd won. And he's telling me that
Actually, Edgar is his uncle, Mike's his dad.
that's what I said, didn't I?
I think you said it the other way around.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's right. So Mike must be very proud today. And Edgar must be very proud too, because it's really running strong in the family. Championship drivers for the Calgary Stampede. And Clifford Wuttunee at one time was the Calgary Stampede #1 person in racing. So we've got that doing very good from Red Pheasant. We've got a lot of winners there. And what I was reading, the thing that impressed me about Todd when he was being interviewed was it made me think of my dad. Dad told me as a runner, because I was a runner for Saskatchewan, and Dad was a runner, champion runner in Saskatchewan for long distance. And what he told me, he said, sometimes you've only got seconds. You cannot step on a stone. You've only got seconds. And that's the same thing that Todd said. He said, even 2 seconds, or even 1 second, he said, and you can be out of the race. And so those horses are going at terrific speed. And Todd calls his team the Harvey. I don't know why he calls him Harvey. But there must be, and I want to ask him when he comes on, Dickie, we've got to ask him that, why he calls his team Harvey. The only Harvey I can think of was Harvey Wuttunee. I don't know if the team was named after him or what, but anyway, that's, yeah. So when I read, because Nicky, when you told me a lot about him the last time we were on, and so I looked him up on Facebook, and I got all this information about him. And now the Facebook doesn't want to open up because I had everything was written right down here. I'll just ask Jerry if you can get me the interview where it's written down. Yeah.
So while we're waiting for Todd, sorry, Uncle, if anyone like I said, anything can happen on live, and we got to go with it. As Uncle would know, the show must go on, eh?
The show must go on. You're right. The
show must go on. All right, you guys. We were gonna be talking to Todd. Hopefully, we'll come on sooner than later. But in the meantime, I'm gonna give a shout out to anyone who wants to come on as a guest right now. We're gonna have an open mic. If you guys would like to come on, and if you have any storytelling on the Indigenous storytelling, let us know, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, let's my uncle take it away here. And looking forward to this week because I know, are we doing a cooking show on Thursday? Or is that Thursday? We have some really cool things lined up, Uncle, that's coming this week.
Sorry. Trying to sneak away there. Yeah, we have an artist coming in on Wednesday. We'll kind of leave that a surprise. We'll announce that just before, once we get confirmation. We do have some cooking coming up. We will have some of the staff joining us for segments of our show throughout the rest of the month. And yeah, we have some pretty exciting guests coming up. As you guys know, when we've said this before, if you have anyone who you think would have something to contribute to our page and our podcast, for sure, let us know. You can inbox Nathan or myself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and you guys can even call in right now. I'll put my number up here that you guys can call.
I'm just going to step away for 1 second here, Nathan. I have to make a quick call. I have a backup here.
Okay. Oh, she's got a backup plan, she said.
So the other day, Nathan, when I was on there with Nikki, she told me quite a bit about Todd, and I've got a lot of information right here. I can read it about him, okay?
All right.
Okay, here it is. For coming off what he describes as his best season as Chuckwagon driver, Todd Baptiste is excited to be returning to racing at the Calgary Stampede in 2017. His successes last year on the CPCA circuit include finishing third in the standings and having his horse Angelic Fiddler named to the Association Equine Horse Outfit of Excellence. Todd believes a strong relationship built on trust is essential to keeping his horses happy, healthy, and ready to run. No stranger to the Calgary Stampede, Todd lists out riding for his uncle Edgar Baptiste during his 1996 Calgary Stampede Championship win as one of his favorite memories in the sport. The reason why I found that interesting was Nikki the other day when she was talking about working with horses, she said one of the things you have to have trust with the horses. They have to have trust in you. They have to be happy with you as somebody working with them, and they have to believe in you. And I remember her saying that. And it seems to me like Todd does the same thing. He believes in his horses. He's happy with them. And they believe in him. And they're happy with him. So it's a good combination. That was something I never really realized because I rode horses all my life. But I never really got into that deep of psychology with them.
Yeah.
But you and I learned an awful lot there when we listened to Nikki the other day. And so I'm just really excited to be with Todd on this show. I remember with his father, I was out on red pheasant hunting one day, and I saw a rider coming, and that was his dad, the deceased Nola, riding on a horse there. And he was always a good rider. Yeah, so here we are again. And
I thought you were going on with the story there. So tell us about yourself, Uncle. I know, like, there's so many stories you have. Like, let's move along with
well, Wassisquan's going to be coming on. So is Rachel. I'll talk about Wassisquan.
Yeah, Wassisquan. He's one of my favorite cousins. We've had some fun times when we were growing up.
Anyway, we were going to Austria. We were going dancing there. Wassisquan was dancing, and Rachel was dancing, and so was Niska. Niska was about 3 or 4 years old, and we were in Austria, and there are just so many people all over the place. And my sister Elsie, deceased Elsie, was there, and also my sister Elsie. Yeah, I don't forget who was hanging around with her, but anyway. So Niska was dressed up so nice. He looked so nice, and he was only about at 4 years old, he was that tall. And all the people there in Austria were taking pictures of him and everything. And he's kind of shy. He's not that kind of a guy to be standing out there getting his picture taken. And all of a sudden, somebody came to me and they said, "Have you seen Niska?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen him anywhere." So I said, "Well, we have to stop the show." So I stopped the show. I said, "I have to find my son," because there was a raging river running right beside where we were. And so everybody looked. They were down at the river looking. They're looking all over around cars and everything. And all of a sudden, somebody said, "There he is!" And he pointed up in the air because Niska had all these feathers. He was way up in a tree, sitting there like this. And finally, he came down, and there was this one Austrian guy that we worked with. He was about 6'5", and he just loved Niska. So he came, and Niska was crying because there was so much attention paid to him. He didn't like that, so he was crying. He wanted some ice cream, and that's what he wanted. So this big tall guy, he said, "Come on, Niska." He said, "I'll take you and I'll buy you ice cream." So him and Niska went away. Niska was up to his knees, and that guy was way up there. They're hopping down the grounds there like that. It looked so funny. I wish I'd had a picture of that. And Wassisquan was there dancing. He did all right. He was proud to be dancing like that. And Rachel was dancing, and she was dancing okay too. But the thing was that everybody was taking pictures. Everybody was taking pictures. And then we always had lots to do. And one day the kids, they went riding these horses. The horses came from Norway, and Nikki's father has those kind of horses. He had them, and they're riding those horses. And I forget what you call them. But then one day we were just driving around, and we had time, so we went to Italy. Nathan, it was just across the border, about 5 miles away. We went over there, and we just went there to eat pizza. And I found out that the pizza in Italy is not the same way they make it here. In Italy, the pizzas are very thin, and it was not too much stuff on them. But here they're packed right for. Hey, good morning, Todd.
All right.
How are you?
Hey, Todd.
Good to see you.
Hey, I'm gonna take myself out of here. Nikki, do you want to stay on for this one, or?
No, Nikki.
Yeah, I can stay on for this one.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Read your messages, Nathan. Good morning or good afternoon, Todd. Welcome.
Morning.
Where are you joining us from this cold morning?
Looks like he's in his car.
Right now, I'm in Lloyd. I'm just getting ready to jump in the truck to go and haul oil.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Well, Todd,
Cold weather.
I read your biography this morning. It was very interesting. I spent a lot of time reading that biography. And congratulations on all your wins. And congratulations on being right in the top the top of the Calgary Stampede riders, outfits like that. I was very proud of what you said and everything like that. And it must have been a real thrill for you to bring up your Uncle Edgar onto the stage with you when you won at Calgary last time.
Yeah, it's been a lifetime, goal for us, I guess, from the standpoint of a horse family and the tradition of carrying on the Chuckwagon family tradition as we know it. And it's always been challenging for myself in competing as a Aboriginal in stage of a lot of other people as well. So it's always important to uphold yourself in to them terms, and the challenges that come along with it, as we all know. But over the years, it's adapted us to grow with the sport and grow as a person, as a competitor, as a professional competitor, and to be able to turn it into a positive lifestyle for myself, my family, and others that are included, always in trying to involve, our youth to, keep them involved in terms of with the horses, with the culture, and the things that we like to be able to go about in terms of protocol with prayer and elders. So there's a bunch that it stems from. Racing obviously is the biggest component for us to be in a professional, stage, and that's the way we take it. And every year it's always, it's always challenging. It's always good to be able to live that way, and having a horse to be able to always, look up to, right? So it's been good.
So my wife brought up this point that you were the champion in 2019, and after there was nothing in 1920 and nothing in 1921. 2021. And so that sounds like for 3 years you're the champion by default. The first one was you won it.
It's nice to be able to be to that statutory. Obviously, in this sport, it comes and goes, and with the pandemic, it's really not allowed us to be able to continue on. And but we did have some fun runs during the summer. There was approximately about 20 of us at times during the weekends. So that gave us opportunity to break our newer horses, to be able to put them into the program, to be able to just to give a little recap to the thoroughbreds. They're all thoroughbred horses. It takes an average of 3 years for them to really adapt into the Chuckwagon world as we know it, and some adapt a lot quicker than others. So last year was that time for us to be able to do that, and it was it's always important to have newer stock come in, and it takes time, but it wasn't competitive, and we went about the protocol, the regulation protocol, in terms of having to be able to participate last year during the pandemic, and moving forward to where we are today. Everything is planned as is. Our show schedule are planned. The Calgary Stampede is planned as it is, which I'm invited to go back to for 2021 this summer. And the CPCA season is planned to be able to proceed. And everything will be as planned until given further notice if we can go or not. So, it's important for us to always, keep planning as we do, and rebuilding. And, along with that comes with sponsorship. You have to be able to market yourself as a driver to be able to get the proper sponsorship dollars that you need to be able to roll down the summer and those kind of things. So it's always a busy time, and in amongst all that, we still have to hold a job somewhere. So feed our horses is expensive to do so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when Clifford Wuttunee was racing there too. He had all those horses, and he had to feed them all the time. Yeah. And Todd, you were mentioning about seconds and how if you're even a second behind, you could lose a race or win the race with 1 second.
Yeah, a second is a big margin nowadays for Chuckwagon racing. It actually comes down to 1/100th of a second, and
Yeah.
1/100th of a second can either break or make a show or season. So it's competitive, and just to put it in a little bit more perspective, Winston, you mark that 1 second, you can put 10 to 15 wagons within that 1 second at one night of a performance. So
Yeah.
the
Oh,
1/100th comes down to a fraction. I mean, we can't snap our fingers fast enough to how the times are so close. They're so close to each other within that second. So everything has to click, and it all comes back from from your barn, from your training, from your people that you work with. Everything from the barn to the track. If there's anything in between that isn't gonna fit or make you be competitive, then you'll definitely see that. And with the competitors today, it's a business, and they're going to be able to win, and they're always wanting to win. So I think that's the mentality I've always been brought up to be as a competitive driver, is to have that winning attitude. And with that attitude, you could share that with anybody that you're with, your barn crew, definitely your horses, because your horses, if they don't understand how to be able to win, then they don't. And I know it might sound a little corny or whatever, but if they
no,
don't
it's
know
right
how to win,
on. You're
yeah,
right
if they
on.
don't know how to, then they won't never know how to win.
Well, Nikki, you would know all about 1 second because you were a barrel racer. Why don't you tell us a little more about 1 second?
Yeah, that time frame, it means everything, right? And like as Todd said, it can be like 100th of a second, and some of these races are really close. It's a timed event. A lot of rodeo events are timed events, same as the chuck wagons, and every little bit counts. Every little bit that you put into your horses, and even right down to nutrition, what you do for them, how they're shod, how they're the care that they have, the rest that they have in between their shows. That's all relevant, as Todd knows. And I was going to ask Todd to talk a little bit about that spiritual aspect of caring for horses, and what are some of the things that that you're able to talk about that that and that you utilize as you're working with your horses, that's in conjunction with our culture.
I think personally, Nikki, that's a very important component to dealing or racing horses to that level, because like my grandfather, late Nolan Baptiste, we were always raised around horses in Red Pheasant, and know that it takes time as a person to really understand the culture aspect and how important the horse spirit is to a person, and to be able to have that bond as a person, and to a horse as an animal, and that connection. And some people are gifted that way, and some of them have to work a while to get that, to understand the point. And we take that very seriously from my racing team. That number one is respect, and for ourselves, for the horses, and along with that, we're always looking for prayers from our elders to be able to ensure that that we're safe, that the horses are safe, that our travels are safe going down the road every summer, that we're able to all return back home with our families, with our horses. And things happen down the road that we're unable to control, and when that happens, we really rely on our spiritual aspect to be able to continue to 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 be able to take to proceed on with what we're doing, because it is a dangerous sport. Chuckwagon racing is one of the extreme sports of the world, and we all know that it can take anyone's lives away at any time. So you got to be able to respect that, And if you can understand some of those components, like some other people, I don't speak for anybody but myself, that number one is the respect of the animal, and everything we do each and every day is for the horses, and they come first. And even when we're feeding up at midnight or getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, those things tire you as a person, but the connection that you need to be able to understand the spirituality, through ceremony, we've always been brought up that way to understand it, and it's important. And because and I share that with anybody. I could be anywhere, and I'm not going to go tell anybody what to do, but I'll definitely give some advice if there's advice that needs to be given, because maybe you might not see something that other people might not be able to understand, or not to try and know that you know everything, but at the same component, like me myself, I'm getting to the age where I've done it since I was 14 years old, and now I'm 46, so that's a lifetime achievement. So for me to be able to talk about here today, because it is a lifetime achievement, and I spent a lot of time and energy and money along the years with it, and it's tough because like we talked about, the competition is at the highest it can ever be if you want to be in that part of a world in the sport of horse racing. And so it's important. Culture has always been number one for us, for our family, to respect to know how to be able to go about the public protocols if there is any that need to be done, that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell of how we always go about our stuff with horses.
Yeah, that's those are really important points to make, and I believe that first and foremost we have to honor that horse spirit as we're working with them, regardless of the sport that we're using them for. And it sounds like you have a really good understanding of that, and you were lucky to have that incorporated into your teachings as you grew into the sport. It'd be really nice to see more of that. With other people coming up, and sometimes I see, like, as I'm traveling down the road, I've seen many people who lack that respect or that knowledge for the horses. You can have all the knowledge in here and from the books in the world, but at the end of the day, you still have to really have that respect for the horse and for what they do for us.
It's very important. I mean, because we were always, like I said, it starts from the households, and that's the only way that we were taught, because of our
Nikki.
Oh, did we lose them? Yeah.
Looks
like we lost them there.
Yeah. I remember one time a dancer, she was dancing a fancy dance, and she was dancing a horse dance, and she said exactly the same thing. And that's got to be about 30 years ago I saw that. But I was just like, we're proud of Todd, and we're proud of you, and people are proud of me. Like, we're all proud of each other. But one thing that I remember is that, let's say when he's racing, we're proud of him. Those people that have passed away, they're proud of him too. So those are ancestral teachings that we have, and all three of us, all four of us, are doing that, because Nathan, we smudged before we came on the show, and we blessed the show and everything like that, And yeah, I'm so glad that he was able to make it.
Yeah, it was really good having him. And, I was able to actually talk to another good friend of mine that's going to be able to join us hopefully here soon. And again, it's relevant to a horse sport. Nathan, is she available?
Yeah, she's on. Cheryl, if you can hear us, we'll bring you on here right away. Todd, we're all battling with that res Wi-Fi, eh? All right, here we go.
I think it's the cold, personally. I think it's affecting this.
Wait a minute. You just coined a new phrase there. Be careful.
Res Wi-Fi. Cheryl, do you want to
Hello, Cheryl. Welcome.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
That's it, though, yeah.
Welcome, my friend.
Buonanto. Ewo kia?
I'm Stone Stables Lady. Been racing for the Indian Relay and the Lady Warrior portion of the Indian Relay, I guess.
So when is the relay run?
Usually starts June, but the training starts from right now till June, I guess. Like to be conditioned and whatever, to lose weight, whatever you have to do to be light, to be able to race fast, I guess.
Oh, that's a hard one to lose weight.
That is, especially when you like
When you love bannock soup.
cookie boy.
So you were saying, Cheryl, that you're starting to get your horses ready now for the upcoming season. And Todd had talked a little bit about this too. You know, we're not sure what our season's going to look like with COVID, but the show still goes on. We still have to start the training now, whether or not, you know, whatever that looks like come June, July. So can you tell us a little bit about how you start preparing your horses for this?
It usually starts with feeding. Feeding's most important. Then training and looking after the horse, smudging, whatever you do to get your horse conditioned. And
so where do you get your horses? That like how do you figure what makes a good relay horse? Because maybe speak a little bit about the sport for those who may be listening that don't exactly know or haven't maybe been to a race. Exactly what goes on at an Indian relay race, if you had to break it down?
If I had to break it down, we travel, and that's usually like about an hour, 2-hour drive, depends where, I guess. Sometimes 4 hours. We leave the house. Well, we feed horses. Usually my husband and I, we usually shower the horses. If it's a hot day, they get on the horse while they're freshly bathed. It takes a lot of at home things before getting onto the road, I guess, because you're feeding just before, also you're combing, you're brushing. It has a lot to do with just looking after your horse, because if the horse is after, you have to look after the horse in order for the horse to look after you, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So when you go to these races, how many teams are you competing against? How does it work? Miss Gay, maybe give us a little rundown about like how the races operate.
There's usually about 20 teams to meet, I guess. And usually we start with a grand entry, and then either however the host wants it, I guess. Usually all of the year and the year before, the Lady Warriors would start the race off. They'd race first, and then it would get to then in between heats and stuff, the Indian Relay would start, and there's like three horses, a jockey, and pretty much the jockey serves as a baton as the horse races around a track, jumps off, and the catcher catches the horse, and then the setter sets the horse as the jockey's jumping off and jumps onto the next horse, and then the setter lets the horse go, and then there's a back holder that holds onto the horse that just finished his race, and then they walk in a circle until the last runs through, I guess.
Yeah. So it literally takes a whole team and good timing, and you know, all elements are on board here.
It's really good timing. You're like, from what I see when my husband's doing it, they're constantly walking around looking when to position their horses and when to let go, because it could be you could end the race in an instant and be disqualified if you make a mistake. So it's pretty intense.
And how far do the horses have to run altogether?
Usually, the tracks are 5/8, most of the tracks, and then the smaller tracks are just a bit smaller. It's pretty intense,
Yeah.
even with
And
year.
yeah. And it's probably similar with rodeo. When we go to a rodeo, we don't really necessarily know what we're running on when we go, or how the ground's going to be and all of that. And of course these shows are outdoors, so I'm pretty sure there's probably times when you've had to run in some pretty sticky situations, maybe running knee deep in mud or cold or whatever, and all of that has such an important bearing on the horse's performance and the team's performance, doesn't it?
It's rain or shine. No matter what we race,
Yeah.
it's rain or shine. The wagons could be done for the day, but all in all with Indian relay, it's just rain or shine. There's no.
Yeah. I've noticed that when I was watching some of your races, and it's like, oh, that's got to be so tough. Like even on the athletes, on the horses, on the riders, on everybody. But like you said, the show goes on. I was fortunate to have raced against Cheryl once. I'm not a relay racer, but I was asked to ride one time in the ladies warrior race, and I was a little reluctant because I'd never done anything like that. When I race, it's like a 16 second race, right? It's a sprint. And so I got on this horse, and I was actually riding against Cheryl, and wow, it was something else. I mean, hats off to what you guys do, and to have the stamina and everything else that goes along with that. I mean, it's very dangerous. You're at a crazy speed, and the power of the horses underneath you for the duration of the track is something else. Like, it was an experience I'll never forget, and it was an honor to race alongside you until you whipped my butt, but it was still fun.
That was a nice little bit of humor. Let me give a little bit of humor here. Clifford Wuttunee, when he was racing, I had just got out of the army, and I was living on red pheasant. And I said, can I go with you and just see how it's done? So he said, sure. And he said, you want to try out riding? I said, yeah, I'd be interested in that for sure. So he said, well, let's go have a trial. And so we went out, and I stood beside that thoroughbred horse. Holy smokes, he was tall. I had to reach up here like this. And then the next thing I had to do was, when we took off, I had to put that little barrel in the back of the Chuckwagon. Then I had to jump on that horse, and I was hanging on. I think I rode 100 yards on the sides like this, hanging on to one leg over here like this, and the other one trying to get up to it. I was so embarrassed. So then after we finished, Winston, he said, I don't think you'll make a Chuckwagon. I don't think you'll be an outrider. You've got to have a really strong arm to get up on the horse. Oh, we had a good laugh afterwards anyway. And I had a good laugh too. I learned something real fast. I never forgot that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
With some of the ladies, they ride bareback, like the younger ladies. I'm actually the oldest rider out there, but I choose to ride with a saddle. And how I got into racing was I was dreaming that I was racing, and then I went with it. My first race was crazy. My cousin, his nickname is Sparks. He's well known as a jockey all over the country, because he jockeyed as a professional racing jockey at in Saskatoon, wherever racetracks you've seen Tim Moccasin, right? And he's won like 15 consecutive races, and he holds the world record for consecutive wins. So he was there, and he told me, Cheryl, well, we have nicknames in our family, right? And my nickname is Nannies, and he is like, Nannies, you just gotta grab your reins. And he is showing me how to grab the reins, and I for sure had to grab the reins exactly of how he rode as a professional jockey. I had the reins ready and whatever. He told me how to grab onto my horse's mane. I grabbed onto my horse's mane, and the horse just jolted once the horn went, and I was holding on for dear life, and all of a sudden I ripped my horse's whole mane off, and I was like, what the hell? And I just grabbed onto my horse's mane again, and off we went. But
wow.
The craziest, scariest experience ever, and I never rode a thoroughbred in my life. as the race was done, I stood up with all my might to try and stop this 1,200-pound horse, right? And then I stopped him come first turn, and that's unheard of for, I guess, for thoroughbreds, because they usually you pull them off to the side, and then they learn to slow down on their own, because that's how they were trained. But me, I stood up real, like, with all my might, and I was like stopping him. All of a sudden I triple bounced and I fell off the horse, and then like I had the reins on my hands as I was falling. I like fell on my as I fell down, my elbow hit the ground, and I dropped the reins, and off he went. And I tumbled onto the worst part of the track. Nothing but thorns I rolled onto, like from my chest all the way to my legs, full of thorns. I was like, what the heck did I get myself into, is what I thought as I see my husband come running for me. Are you okay? I was already standing up, and I was like trying to dust all these thorns off, like literally like embedded in my skin.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's pretty hard. But, you know, I took 2 horses into a horse dance up at Thunderchild. And I had never been in a horse dance before. But when you're going around that teepee, everybody's standing in the center, and you're going around that teepee, and the horses are all going full blast. And then they stop that fast drumming, and then they just drum like this. And at that time you jump, and at that time you jump off your horse and you dance beside your horse.
It was an experience I'll never forget. And it was an honor.
And the horse danced right with me. And then when you get on, once again, my long arms there, when I went to get up, I got halfway up. My 2 boys each had a horse in there, and they were already racing around. Dad, hurry up, get on there. Saying each time they'd go by me.
I went to one fast.
Afterwards, they told me, said, Dad, please don't race. Please don't get into any more horse dances. So no more Chuckwagon, no more horse dances. I can just ride when nobody's looking.
So
Anyway.
Well, there you go, Winston.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
So
what were you going to say, Cheryl?
I retired last year, and then I told I said to my horses, well, it's up to you guys if you have to be the ones to show me if I'm going to race again this year, and they have shown me, so I'm coming out of retirement. So I'll be racing here.
Quick, I gotta go watch you. Where's it going to be? I want to see you.
I don't even know
what you're going to do.
First ones will be, actually.
I'm just kidding.
It's all going to be with COVID and stuff. It's kind of hard to imagine us getting through COVID and all this, because everything's changed. The world's changed. Everyone's changed. Their mentality, their mental state. Wow, it's even in their minds. So it's kind of an iffy situation of when we'll race, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll just hope for the best for everything for this upcoming season and all events, right? I mean, everybody's kind of on hold, all of the sporting events. And, you know, it's really good to see so many people such as yourselves who are, how do you say, that understand the importance of what we're doing. And not only that, but implementing that respect for the horse spirit as we work. And I like what you said earlier about, you know, you asked your horses to show you if you were to keep racing, and those are kinds of things that I guess as we get a little older, if things are meant to be, they'll unfold and they'll be shown to us. And I truly believe that in my life as well. Like for me, competition is kind of on hold for me at the moment because I'm pursuing some other goals, but I still hope to get back to it. And you can still do a lot with your horses, even if we don't have a season of some sorts, you'll still have that time with your horses. And I know last summer I was able to use that time to be able to connect with some of my horses and make new connections with some of the new horses that I got. A lot of quiet time, a lot of time to reflect and to be grateful. And, you know, just it was really good despite COVID, and we didn't get to travel too much. And even getting out there, like you said, it's kind of tough. I tried to get to as many races of yours as I could, because there was a season last year near the end of the summer for Indian Relay. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy watching it more than I do riding it. I don't know, maybe I'll do it again. Ty says I'm not allowed because it was just too scary to watch, but it was definitely it was definitely exhilarating, and I can see why you love the sport so much. However, if I do it again, I would certainly make sure that I was more prepared for it, because like that was the most humbling and awesome and intimidating and scary and awesome again, like experience I've ever had. It was wonderful.
The day we raced, out of all the women that I was intimidated was you. For some reason it was you, because they told me,
wow,
racing a barrel racer, and I was like, well, wow, I never raced a barrel racer before, but
well, your game is a whole different ball game, that's for sure. And like I said, hats off to you, and to be able to do this all summer long. And it's still an exciting race to watch. Like I'm kind of hooked on it now, and it'll probably be something that I'll be enjoying as long as it's going on. Now, is there a new association coming up in Saskatchewan?
Association, just at its infancy stage. It's called Elite.
Okay.
Elite Indian Relay Association.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot more going on in the States, right? So it's kind of new. Is it not kind of new to us around here, or?
It is kind of new in Saskatchewan, more or less, than in the States. It's been going on for like years and years, but I started in 2017, and that year I was second in the standings, and the following year after that, I trained really good. I was down to 136, I think, and the day raced, it was a do or die race. If I didn't win that race, I would not won the co-aggregate, and then I went on to win the championships. So I won the the aggregate is the hardest one to get because it's points throughout the whole season, right? And then the chip was, well, there was two of us that were ties, so it was pretty intense. Yeah. And then what more intense was in my home community. Most of my community members, even my mom, has never watched me race, and which made it more intense racing at home. So it was crazy. It was a crazy moment for me.
For those of you who are watching at home, if you have any questions for Cheryl or Winston or anything to do with any of the topics that we've been talking about, come on and comment in the comments there. We welcome any questions, and we're just really lucky to have. And if you here, and if you're just tuning in, this is Cheryl Stone from Stone Stables. Also, Mansell, is Mansell around?
No, Mansell's gone to work actually. He's
okay. I was just gonna ask him to say a few words.
So with all this racing and stuff, it brought me to be more or less, I advocate for the murdered missing Indigenous women. My horse took everywhere, and with the racing with the murdered missing Indigenous women, it's really important for me because one of my relatives went missing a while back, and she was murdered, and that's what got me into advocating for the murdered missing Indigenous women, and also for late Ashley Morin. She hasn't been found yet still, and we're still hoping that we bring her back home. Because that's my daughter's aunt.
I'm very glad you brought this topic up, because my daughter is in Vancouver, and they have something organized, the Indian women in Vancouver. If an Indian woman is in a bar and she can't get a ride home or doesn't have money to take a taxi, she can phone my daughter, or my daughter will phone somebody else and say, can you go get this lady? She's in the barn, and give her the address. So quite often she gets up in the middle of the night, and I say, where are you going? She said, somebody needs a ride, and they'll go give a person a ride home. And I thought, that is so nice,
Yeah. Yes.
And she works a lot with the missing and murdered Aboriginal women. Well, I guess every woman that is an Indian woman is working with them somehow. And so when you said that, I was so proud of you, just right there. Never seen you race, but I'm proud of you.
Well, with being Indigenous for like 30, whatever you want to call it, Nesto, Tapsus, Magi, Goya as First Nations, Mumi, not the RCMP aren't gonna investigate if you report your own sister, mom, whoever goes missing right away because they don't believe you or they don't care to believe. Like it's sad.
And that's why, like, there's something that I was on a podcast with Ontario with the women that had started this safe house living. And one of the things that one of them said was, we have to start being better people right now. So for the people that are going to be born 100 years from now, they can look back at us and say our ancestors did something. And that's where the three of us come in, that we're doing something now. So when they look back on us, they'll say, my ancestor, Winston Wuttunee, I look back on him and he did quite a bit. And same with you, Cheryl, and you too, Nikki. We think we're doing something, but we're chosen to do this. It's not by accident we are doing this. Those words that you just spoke are not by accident. Those words were given to you, that life that you live and the way that you believe. And the same with Todd, the way he believed in the horses and that has been given to him. It's not something that just stumbled on. It's been given to him. So I really respect it when I meet other Native people that are doing really good stuff like that. And that's good. So, but I had a question also. How far is a relay race? How is it? A couple of miles? Is it uphill, downhill, cross rivers, or what?
It's on a racetrack.
Oh, okay.
What you're thinking is most likely they do suicide races in the States, and those ones go through hills, rivers, puite.
Yeah.
How
I
long last
I
for?
knew one of those guys in Gimini, and he had a problem with that. And so his father asked me, can you talk to him? So I talked to him. And then he told me that he was riding there in British Columbia. And he said to go down the mountains. And I thought it was just a nice ride down the mountains. No, he said, we go straight down. I thought, oh my God. And I thought, oh, still alive. That's enough right there.
I went riding all one time. Do you remember the time 2000 hit and people were saying like it was the end of the world and whatever, and somehow my family got stooped into moving to Hinton and sold everything. Name it, my parents sold it all. So we went to the mountains and went and lived there for the whole summer. And we met a bunch of other Nehiawak and there was these families in Hinton, they were really fluent in Cree, Bukki, right, to live off the land. They knew it all. And then this one, not Bill, he took my family out on probably a week-long excursion going hunting. And he ended up mountain goat. Anyways, he rolled it. That mountain go way up in the mountains, and that thing tumbled all the way halfway down. And he used his horse to go and retrieve that mountain goat halfway up the mountain.
Holy cats.
Horses are adaptable to anything. And I was so at awe when I seen that. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Boy, oh boy, eh? That's amazing.
How long does a relay track race last? Anywhere from 3.5 to 4 minutes, most likely. Well, maybe 5 minutes, because it's at least an hour and 20. I mean, a minute and 20 around one race, around one lap around the track. So triple, I guess.
So if someone wanted to see like a race, if they haven't seen one, where could they find you on YouTube to watch one of the races, just as an example, like those watching at home that maybe haven't seen one yet?
They could see it on YouTube. If you Google any of the races where they were held, they'll come up most likely.
Mm-hmm. There was some in what, Enoch? There was some in.
There's
what are some of your big races?
Enoch, Kainai, Picani,
Oh yeah.
and Calgary. Where else?
Yeah.
They're everywhere. Onion Lake,
Yeah.
Lawmaker, Soto. Wait there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Calgary, I think we have Todd back. Do we not, Nathan? I think Todd was able to log on again. He kind of had some spotty internet there.
I think it's
we'll see if he.
I think it's the weather, because my internet's pretty spotty too.
Oh, Tansi.
Oh, there we go. You can just stay on, Cheryl.
Yeah.
There, you're back.
Yeah. Good to see you.
My battery died out there and I got cut off, so I have to get my charger out. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm not sure where we left off.
Well, you're used to charging when you charge down the track I say you're used to charging all the time, charging down the track.
It's pretty intense, that natural adrenaline rush. I could almost say it's almost like an anxiety attack. That's the natural adrenaline rush that I feel, because I used to have anxiety attacks back in the day, but just before every race, that's the feeling I get. Like, it's so intense, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the energy of that, speaking of the energy of that, maybe if you guys could talk a little bit about each of you, maybe Todd first, about that. I guess, how do you get yourself prepared for a race? I know when you're in the background and you're waiting for that, the horses are feeling that. They know when it's time for their race to come up. So maybe talk a little bit about that if you can.
It's kind of weird. I guess everyone has their own personality in terms of preparation for races, and some are different. I'm just saying we can all, share our experiences. But for myself, the biggest thing for me every time, it comes to race day is just to make sure that, we're always double checking the things that need to be checked, making sure that our equipment, our harness, our wagon, double checking everything so that, we don't have any problem coming out there. But as a person, as a driver, like Cheryl was saying, I think when you stop feeling them butterflies is probably a indication for you that you don't get nerved up anymore. And I mean, that's part of being competitive. That's just a competitive, I guess, a way of feeling, because I still get them butterflies. And I mean, sometimes you think, well, why do you do this to yourself? And there's no explanation to it, because that's the way you prepare yourself as a person in a competitive field. And you just overcome some of the fears that everybody overcomes in dealing with horses, because of the magnitude of power and speed that you're able to endure when you're racing. So it's important for me to make sure in anything that my horses are ready to race, the equipment's ready to go, the barn crew is all in tow in terms of making sure that we're not going to be late going to the racetrack. Those kind of stuff kind of play more on me than me as a person now. I say that this past year, racing full year, that was 2019. There was lots of mentality that you always. The way I could best describe it to anybody is, as a driver, You know, when you first start out, you're always thinking of, being champion or being on that stage or whatever have you, and you kind of prep yourself that way. But when it really happens, you can't comprehend, how all of that is transpiring right in front of you. So you got to put yourself into a different perspective mindset so that you don't screw up or you don't falter or anything like that because you work so hard to get there. And it's really surreal because things happen so fast. And when it does happen, with your as a person with experience you have as a racing person or a Chuckwagon person like myself, it's challenging again because you think you're ready and you're not. And when it does happen, you have to really put yourself into a different mindset because it's happening right now, and it's really surreal. So it's hard to explain. But in terms of anything else, the biggest thing is, like I said, for us is to race safe, race clean, and be able to come back at the end of the day and talk about it. Because if we can't do that, then there's problems in between the cracks or whatever you want to say. So it's important that way, and that's the best way I could explain it.
Yeah. How about you, Cheryl? How do you prepare for a race?
For me, it's meditation, smudging, lots of prayers, and the same with smudging your horses and talking to your horse before the race, after the race, how good they done, how good you did, and just the horse spirit as well to look after you as your race, along with your ancestors, and to help, well, Mother Earth too. I usually set tobacco down on the track, wherever, somewhere clean, and pray for guidance and hope you don't get hurt. All in all, it's like pretty intense moments once I'm on the track. Believe it or not, I'm focused, calm. But just before the race, that's when all the butterflies and the natural adrenaline rushes is like over the top. But once I'm on my horse, I'm focused. I'm ready for the job and whatnot. I'm the calmest. That, like, once I'm on my horse, I'm calm. And once they blow the horn, it doesn't even take that long. It's like seconds. So as long as I'm past the line at the end of the race, I'm good to go, I guess. To me, winning is great, but it's not everything as long as you're safe. At the end of the day, safe, the horses are safe, and your competitors and you are safe. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where that humility comes into that as part of our teachings. We've talked about respect. We've talked about humility. We've talked about gratitude. I know for me, as I prepare for a race, it's much the same. You guys talk about the butterflies and getting nervous. I don't think that ever goes away. But there's stages of it. Like for me, it'll be like in the morning as I'm feeding my horses, there's a calmness. Then my next stage for me is then I start to feel, I get those butterflies and I get that anxiousness. And then I start playing it out in my head, what I would like my run to look like. And I do a lot of that. And I'm sure you guys do too, where you go through your runs in your mind, like the perfect run, what you'd like to see for that day. And then going on to prepare my horse and rubbing my horse down with sage and, doing my smudge, doing my prayers. I like to be kind of alone just before I do my race. Lots of times you go to rodeos, jackpots, different things like that. And, people want to visit. So I have a lot of fellow barrel racers back there just trying to shoot the breeze and visit. And I just have to go off by myself. I'm very perceptive to energy because of what I do. So I'm feeling every single thing that all those horses and people are feeling. That's one of the drawbacks of being in energy the way I am. And so I know in order for me to keep myself together, I have to kind of be off by myself and then just come in and do my run. And then I'm okay. Right.
Well,
and
it's a whole different. Also, your horses are different when they know it's time to race. They're right up there, just as nervous as you, most likely. They're just like ready to go. they're a whole different horse once they're on the track.
Oh yeah, they know their jobs, right? That's what we train them for, and they know when it's show time and when it's go time. And sometimes we just have to roll with that as well. And the thing, I can't imagine. I work with one horse, right? So that's my partner for that moment. But for you, Todd, working with with a team of horses and then having to deal with the people aspect of it and your help and your barn hands and hoping everyone is like on spot on for that day and for that race. And I can't imagine what must go on in your head as you're prepping for this.
Well, over the years, Nikki, it's been like I said, you learn, and I'm not done learning because I think that's important to always keep an open mind in what you're trying to accomplish because I can relate to a little bit of the conversation what Cheryl was and yourself what you're talking about with relation with the horses and the way I feel about it is that if the horses trust you and they trust me, then if I feel relaxed and calm and focused and ready, my horses will feel the same. So in saying that, I like to have a bit of a strict rules around hooking time and unhooking because that's important to me when it comes to training and how I train my horses to perform because if somebody is either under the influence or somebody that's just off of their chart or whatever you want to say, they pick up on that and immediately they won't be a part of that day with us. So a lot of people understand that have been around me, but at the same time too, because these animals are so high strung, hot blooded, they're bred to run. So it's not like they're gonna stand still. They're gonna want to go. So if somebody's kind of scared in just handling one horse in my team, then I gotta calm that person down so that horse doesn't feed off of his anxiety or his nervousness or whatever because I have to make sure that he's just as in tow with me as I am with him in order to make that perfect day, or that perfect run. So it's important that way.
There's also a period for our horses when we're handling them when it's the day of the race. My husband usually has like a couple hours of don't touch the horses. They need their own space too.
Yeah, that's really important that
and
these horses get. Go ahead, Todd.
I was just commenting on Cheryl because I mean that's important for our horses to have the space. And I don't like mean that I don't want you touching my animals because I mean that's part of connection with people and with people that might be troubled in their lives and the horse has either altered their way of life or changed their way of thinking. And I mean we don't know how other people feel when they come around, but I only speak to the people that are part of the team. And there's always invited guests that want to be part of it, whether it's a sponsor, whether it's a family member, maybe even a friend that you haven't seen for a while and want to be part of what you do. So we're always welcoming those kind of people all the time because we want them to experience that as well as myself. I want them to experience the whether we're winning or if we take a show championship or whatever have you. That's all part of being, I guess, I don't know what I could say about it, but successful, I guess I could say. So those are important to me. It's not all about me. I always try and I don't praise myself as being any better than anybody else because like Winston said, I'm fortunate enough to be able to be here talking with you people here today on topics of horses as well as having to be able to have the horses still in our lives. So and a lot of my family, I tell them the same thing. Like you got to be able to respect yourself and respect who you are before you can go on and challenge other things in your lives because it's important. We have to stay grounded some way. I mean, you can't live on a high horse all your life, or otherwise, you it just doesn't work out that way. And I don't hold myself to that statutory to anybody, because I don't feel that I'm important enough to understand that. But that's just me as a person, because everybody else is different. But I definitely try and involve people, from anybody that wants to be part of it, and I'm more than happy to have them at the barn and talk and visit, because that's what it's all about, and it's nice to win and it's nice to be champion, but it took a lot of years and time to get to that point. And I mean, when you do have that opportunity to be able to present yourself as that kind of a person, other people listen, and you have to be careful on how you be able to uphold yourself, so yeah, it's important, and I can't explain that enough to anybody. I think anybody that's been part of our barn can relay anything that happens. And I mean, you have to have your own barn rules, number one. And I mean, if anybody can respect that, then there's the door, right? With no disrespect, because you can hurt me, you can hurt other people, or you can hurt animals. So it's important to understand that as far as racing aspect of it.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was if you guys each would take a little time to comment on maybe what you've learned over the years, say from 20 years ago to now. Like, what's changed in your perspective? What has working with horses taught you about yourself? Because we learn a lot about ourselves as we get older and as we have these experiences. So maybe Cheryl, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, what have horses brought out for you or helped to grow and develop for yourself?
A lot of healing. They give a lot of healing. Like for me, I never thought I'd dream of racing, and then all of a sudden I'm doing it, and then it brought me to so many things, to even reaching out to family members for the murdered missing Indigenous women. It has done a lot for them as well. Like, I guess the horses used me as a voice for the murdered missing Indigenous women, and that's brought comfort to people that lost their loved ones. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Todd?
I guess it's really developed me as a person in different ways. Being around it all our lives hasn't changed. Being more dependent as a person. Respect has always been there. I've always shown my respect to people and horses all the time. But the responsibility as a person, and you don't have to always go 100 miles an hour every day. You get to hear from different people you meet over the course of the years and going down the road. And, you put a lot of that into perspective as a competitor and as a professional competitor. And, those things kind of, they go with you, right? And I think I've been fortunate to have a lot of good people around me, competitive people, elders, as we speak with, and youth, and just giving that role model perspective, and for others to understand, number one is always going to be respect, to be able to love and care for your animals and your family, and never take anything for granted. That you never know from day to day, like what we're up against. Like 2 years ago we were racing with no worry in the world, and here we are a year and a half later still thinking about our race schedule and if that's even going to transpire. So it's been very, the mental health has been a big issue with a lot of people, moving forward through this pandemic. And without our animal, like this past summer doing the fun runs we did, it was actually a year that it wasn't as competitive, but for me as a competitor, I've always taken it as I have never done it any different in preparing, and that's just my mentality of it, because I don't know any way different to do it. But this year, it was a little bit laid back, so it wasn't as bad, right? So because what always changes I've seen over the years was money. And as soon as some people have money or win money or get a little bit more in their pocket, well, then all of a sudden their head gets a little bigger. So, you got to keep yourself grounded. That's why I said, being grounded has taught me a lot. And, I'm not saying not to be confident, because as a person, we all know if we don't have confidence, it's hard to be able to continue in some areas. But it's taught and learned and grown on me to be who I am today, and that I can continue on as long as I can till I'm 65, which is retirement. But if I can't, then I'm hoping that I influence somebody to be better, or to start up taking up the reins. So, it's a lifetime.
Yeah, that's true. From what I've learned in working with horses all my life, and being in the horse industry, and in working in all the facets of the horse industry that I do, for me, what I've learned over the years is to try and keep that balance. And you've all touched on that. Both of you have spoken on that, and the importance of that, and the relevance of that, of being centered, being balanced, not letting that when when you're in the spotlight, not letting that get to your head, because we have to be humble about what we're doing, and the fact that we may not have the same horses we're not going to have the same horses forever. And so just knowing that it's always that striving to keep that balance. That's what I've learned, and the gratitude that I have for the upbringing that I've had with the horses, and the teachings that came with that from my father and from his father. And it's a generational thing, but the healing aspect of horses has been such a life changer for me. And I think just recognizing it, as you both do, that keeps things in perspective as well. Like even Winston over there.
Mm-hmm.
Winston, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. I'm a good Indian. I
You
listen.
are. So for you, Winston, horses have remained a part of your life as well, and your love for horses. Maybe you're not around them as you were as much when you were younger, but they still remain close to your heart, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do. I have a picture in my office there. It's about a black and white stallion. And the lady gave me that. She said, Winston, this is your spirit horse. And I thought, wow. So that's been about 7 or 8 years. That horse has been my spirit horse. But also I had another horse called Smoke. He was an Arabian, English Arabian. I always really feel bad about him, because I loaned him to somebody from Batoche, and they're riding to Batoche, and he was galloping through the ditch, and my horse broke his leg. Oh. And they had to shoot the horse. So then when I went to Batoche, I saw him, and I said, can you just tell me what happened? And he said, nothing to tell. Shit happens. And that's all he said. And I went to grab him off the saddle. I was so mad when he said that. And somebody stopped me, and they said, no, Winston, he's not worth it. And I thought, wow, so I would never lend a horse to anybody unless I knew that person, if anything happened to the horse, he would show some decency, at least a talk in a good way. I'm so sorry that this happened, stuff like that. But talking about money, that also is something that I believe, Todd, I was really glad when you said that, because as soon as I think about money, it doesn't go good. As soon if I'm there's a competition coming up here with the Festival de Voyageurs, and I won the championship for old time fiddlers last year. And right off the bat, I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'll probably win again. And then all of a sudden, it's just like somebody went like this to me. So I started practicing and practicing and practicing. Now I'm ready to go and do the show, but I'm not thinking about the money at all. I'm just thinking about doing a good job. So I like what you said there. Also, I like what you said about having all the people that are with you on the same page as you are. And I think that all three of you have said you do that kind of thing, whereas you don't let anybody come in there that wants to act like he knows something and is going to try to lead. Because I had a person come in like that, and out of all the guys I was working with, he was the only one that did not know anything about horses. But he talked a really good talk, but he didn't know anything about horses. And Yeah, so I really think that you're all on the right track. And Cheryl, it's so good to meet you. I've heard about you from Nikki for a long time. She used to talk about you all the time. Now, when you said your husband, what's his name?
Mansell Stone. Mansell Jr. Stone.
Mansell Jr. I think Mansell and I know each other very well. We had a good laugh together one time. And so he's your father-in-law, Mansell Stone
He
Sr.?
passed away. Yeah.
Oh.
2012, I
What about
believe.
Mervyn? Was Mervyn his brother?
Yeah.
We still make you sweet, take that.
No, Mervin's still around us. We get Guspin. He's still here in.
I had the names mixed up. Okay. Oh, gee whiz. Yeah. I really used to like Mansell. He was always a nice guy to be with.
Happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Yeah. Happy kind of. I just go kind of guy.
I heard lots of funny stories about the guy.
Yeah, and I worked with Mervyn, or not Mervyn, but your uncle Wilmer. He worked with me in Saskatchewan, Todd. And so he taught me a lot about singing powwow songs and that. We always had a good time together. I can honestly say that with all my relatives, I've always had a good time together with them. And one time, Stuart Wuttunee had a real fast horse. He called him Redbone, and after one of the singers. And I was on that horse, and I rode it that day, all that day. And I was riding with Eldon Wuttunee. We came riding, and we stopped. And we were just sitting there talking with Eldon, and all of a sudden, I just slipped off the horse sideways like that. I said, "How did you do that, Winston?" And I said, "I don't know, but when I tried to get up, I couldn't get up because I was totally paralyzed, and you're from riding all day long. I wasn't used to that." And I was sitting there talking to Eldon. I just slipped over like that. So I had a lot of good times there too, a lot of laughs. But I remember those guys with fondness and, what they stood for in my life. And every one of them had, Nikki, you too. You had a good, all of you had a good experience for me in my life anyway. So I'm really happy to be sitting here with you all and just listening to you. That's what our old people want. Just go ahead, do your best, and then we will be happy. Like one time I was at a dance where your mother was, Nikki, and they were going to dance, and they said, "Winston Wuttunee, will you come play the fiddle for us?" So I said, "Sure." And your mother came by me, Nikki, and she said, "Make us proud." Boy, I was scared to make a mistake. Yeah. So that's we're always make each other proud, That's the biggest thing for me to make proud.
I think it's important too that it's kind of cool that just by doing what we love to do and what we've been taught to do, that the impact that we're actually able to have on a lot of the young kids on the reserves around us, right, and in our families, and just being able to be that role model. And as Cheryl said, whether you're at the top of the game or just in the game, it doesn't matter. You're still doing it, right? And to be able to share that with others is really important. And I think it's important that we try and spend more time in growing that with our youth. I know in the rodeo world, we have rodeo schools that come up and people are able to take their kids to that to get them started. But maybe that's something we can work towards is getting some programs in place to get youth into this type of thing, whether it's outriders or driving or racing or whatever it may be. This is maybe something we may be able to collaborate together in the future and work towards, is building that horse culture, because that's so ingrained in us, right? And if we don't nurture that, we don't want to lose it.
Well, you three would be excellent doing that, what you just said, building a horse culture. That is so beautiful. That would work, I'm sure of it. You had top people like you and like you three.
Yeah, well, we're getting to that little bit of an age now where we've lived a little bit. I mean, we're not over the hill yet, but we're approaching it.
Well, climbing up.
When you talk about over the hill, I got to tell you a really funny story. There was a war party going out, and they had never been on a war party before. So this one old guy, he said, "I'll go with you." He said, "I've been on lots of war parties," but he was a little bit over the hill kind of. But he wanted to go and show those young boys how to fight. And so they met their enemy, and they're just sitting there on their horse, and the enemy was just sitting there, and there's a big hill there. So he said, I'll ride up that hill to himself, said, I'll ride up that hill, and I'll give a mighty war whoop. So he rode up there really fast, and his horse spooked right on top there, spooked some groundhog came out of the hole or something. And the guy just tumbled, and he landed on his back, and he was walking around. He knocked the wind out of himself, and everybody, the enemy started laughing, and then all his guys started laughing. So everybody had a good laugh, and they just went home. Nobody got killed that day.
What? We're young. Well, that's probably like 11, 10-ish. And you remember late Grant Moccasin and all his family? Like, you must know Greg Moccasin, right?
Yes.
And their dad is what's his name? What's in his name? Anyways, we always used to ride horses up and down in the back of their house and come down this hill. I was on a Shetland pony, and I was riding down, and as I was getting down the hill, the pony started trotting. Anyways, I fell off to the side like this, and I did a belly flop, and man, did I ever knock the wind out of myself. And all of them were just laughing at me, like killing themselves laughing at me. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? And I was just they're crying. But they're just laughing. Like, what?
Yeah, the more you hurt yourself, the harder they laugh.
Yeah. But they're just all laughing. I couldn't help but to laugh after.
When we were growing up and we fooled around with horses and we fell off, we got ass kicking because we weren't supposed to bother them. So it didn't matter if you were crying or not, you were gonna get your freaking ass kicked or whipped by most of them there for bothering them horses.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But we all did it anyway because we weren't supposed to be bothering them.
The women too. They bothered the horses too, right, Nikki?
Yeah. Winston and I talked about that last week. Yeah.
That was funny. I like that.
Yeah.
But I guess that was the teachings. Those were the teachings of trying to be a cowboy. You had to suck it up.
Yeah, that's right. Todd, I have a question to ask you. Why do you call who is Harvey, that horse? Is that your whole team, or is there just one horse, Harvey, in your team of horses?
No, that's actually that horse, he won back-to-back equine horse of the year. He's a right wheeler, which is the right back horse of the four. And last year, all 6 of my horses, my 4 wagon horses, my 2 outriding horses, had the highest equine points for the whole entire year. But they told me, they said, you can't win it all, Todd. You got to only win one. So they Harvey.
So he won the one for Harvey.
So Harvey did. Oh, so you won it for Harvey?
Well, no, each horse that we compete with on our race days are given equine points based on their performance of that day. So it's just like Cheryl was saying, with the aggregate points at the year-end standings, they accumulate as well as the driver's points accumulate.
Okay.
So then at the end of the year, they award 6 of the best of the whole entire circuit with the highest points given. But that Harvey is a right wheeler. He came from Dorchester. He actually was bought from Jerry Bremner when Jerry Bremner retired. So I ended up getting him from Troy, and he came with 2 other horses that were part of the championship outfit that I still have today. So he's won 2 years back to back as best equine right wheeler. But like in 2019, all 6 horses were at the top. They were all the highest of the equine standings. But since they were so competitive and they ran so great, they only awarded one of the six, so he got it again. But it could have
Okay.
been any of those six horses,
All right. Oh, yeah.
which is
All right. Wow.
really, really, it's really incredible because that usually doesn't happen to anybody. But I mean, that's just the way, like Nikki said, these horses come and go in our lives, and sometimes we'll spend a lifetime with them. Sometimes we only spend 1 or 2 days with them. It depends on what happens, and that all comes back to what we talked about earlier about respect of the horse, because as what I was told, or through our teachings, is sometimes the horse is the horse will take the hit versus before you do. So in saying that, when you talk about respect of the animals, that's why we hold it so highly to ourselves, because of the nature of anything that can happen, which we don't want it to happen. Nothing that happens through us or our competitors or our animals is out of our hands, and it's not it does. But I mean, that's just what I've been told. So that's why I like to pass that on to people too, as they understand.
Mhm.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
I've heard that as well too, and I believe that that's a really important thing to bring forward and to talk about, Todd, is how the horse spirit watches over us. And as you had said, sometimes unthinkable things might happen, accidents, different things can happen to our horses, but in essence, that was protection for us. That's how we view it as Indigenous people. That's how we're taught that, they're taking care of us and even giving their own life for us in that way.
Definitely. I mean, it's very important, and only I can't say only we understand it, but I think everybody has a tendency to know it in their mind, in their heart, to anything. I mean, it not necessarily has to be horse. It could be the animals. It could be animals that we hunt and we kill and taking their life away, and them sacrificing them lives for us. So that's all been taught through our grandparents, and through the bloodlines of our people. So it's no different than horses. I mean, because uh, that's what we grew up with. I've grown up with a horse ever since I could remember, and I've been alongside him all my life. So that's all I know. That's all I could say.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, if you had to pick a favorite horse in your whole in your whole lifetime, Todd, who would be one of the horses that you have? I don't know. That's kind of in your favorite list.
be careful, Todd. Don't talk too fast there, because those
You know,
horses might be watching television.
well, Nikki, it's hard. It's hard for me to pinpoint one horse because I've had so many of them come through our heart, and each and every one of them holds a special spot in everybody's lives. So I don't like to have favorites. I like to just enjoy the fact that I do, if I do have a good horse or whatever, because I've just seen so much over the past that I don't want to have any bad luck towards any of my good animals. So I don't have one
Hmm.
that I particularly can pinpoint. Alongside, when I say we had a lot, I was always beside my uncle Edgar when he first not when he first started. Obviously, I was too small, but when I started outriding behind him and being part of his success, and watching him as a young person and learning the ropes, etc. So there's lots of knowledge, there's lots of teachings, there's lots of things that I've seen that I can be able to relay back to some of my family or friends or whoever it might be. But they're just so unique, and what makes a good horse is one that makes I guess makes you happy. I don't know. I mean, if if they do the job right, and if they're able to, um, just be part of our lives, is a big accomplishment altogether. So it's tough to say for
Hmm.
me because we just had so many. I mean, it's really hard to say. And a lot of people in the industry that I'm involved in, they just don't understand what chuckwagon racing is all about. I guess they see it as we've been labeled as terms as blood sports or whatever have you, that we have this disrespect. They just don't understand how much time, how much energy, how much money that is involved. That a lot of these horses, in a nutshell, if we didn't pick them up as wagon drivers or even Indian relay people, not so much Indian relay people, but I can speak for wagons, that they would be either on the racetrack. If they didn't make it on the racetrack, say as a 3-year-old, which is a very young animal, and if they don't show any like, if they're not going to be winning as a racehorse, then they're moved. And if we don't go pick them up, then they're slaughtered, or there's something that there is done with these animals. Whereas we pick them up as a 5-year-old, we've had them here at the farm till they're 25. That's a whole lifetime. And those are important things to understand, because people that just see us on the racetrack and yelling around and whatever have you, making it look exciting, there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye. So for those that are listening or being part of our podcasts, just a little one on what the Chuckwagon families do, and we leave our homes in the spring and we don't come back till the fall, because we live with our animals all summer long. It's pretty much 4 months on the road. You could say we're gypsies of the night, but we're always traveling, and we're going to new places, or we're returning to places, and it's ongoing. And I'm fortunate enough too that I can take my family with me. And there's a lot of things in our lives nowadays that are prohibited, that we can't share our experiences with our families nowadays. But I could say that I can, and I think it's important for anybody. I mean, I don't push it on anybody to try and do what I do, because I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I'd feel bad if somebody did get hurt if I didn't properly train them or instruct them what to do. So it's just like I think a couple have commented on it. Like, you've got to show some interest, you got to show some commitment, and you've got to be 100% with yourself. Otherwise, you can't lie. You can lie to a person, but you can't lie to a horse, and they'll know that right now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I like how you talked about how it's being involved in this sport, how it's a family, it's a family affair. And I think Cheryl can attest to that as well in their sport, and as well as rodeo, that it is definitely a way that we can take our families along, and they can grow with. I know for me, my son rode steers for a bit, my girls barrel raced, and it was a good life for them growing up, being able to, not only to be in that environment, but they learn so much that has helped them now as adults. It's developed skills for them into adulthood, being responsible for their animal, being accountable for their feelings, and what they bring to the table as they go in to compete. Some of that stuff, though, you can't teach. They just have to experience it. Like in preparing somebody, getting someone prepared mentally to do their event. That's something you just have to get in and get your feet wet and get it figured out, because it's going to look different from person to person. Right. And that was probably the hardest thing for me with my daughters, was like watching them as they navigated their way through that, and how they prepared for their races, and how well they prepared for their races. And how well they did was a reflection of all of the work that they did before. You can't just come in there and look pretty for a few seconds and do a run and expect to do well, right? It's not about that. It's not just about the show. It's about what goes on behind the scenes, the preparation, the commitment, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go exercise your horse before you go work all day or go to school all day, coming home after work or after school, putting those miles on those horses, getting them legged up. The training, all the bumps and bruises that come along with training and getting your horses prepared for that. Like, for a lot of these things, it takes years to develop an athlete and to bring out all the good qualities of these horses. It doesn't just happen overnight. Rarely does it happen overnight. It's something that takes a lot of time and commitment. And I guess that experience that we have over the years, you know, we tend to have a little bit of insight as to what we need to do and figuring out the game plan for each horse, and even right down to nutrition, right? Getting the right farrier to come in and work on your horses. Like, all this is so relevant. What you do for these horses, you get what you put in, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's one of the valuable lessons that my kids learned from this. And now as adults, you know, that's instilled some pretty great qualities in them as adults now. They may not be involved with the horses now like they were in their younger years, but what they learned from those horses and from those experiences, they're carrying now into adulthood.
Yeah.
It's a good way of life, that's for
That's
sure.
right.
But I mean, and so it would be really great to be able to share that right now, like, which is what I try to do with our program that we have here at Red Pheasant. Just trying to even pique the interest of some of these kids. And like, we don't know the kids that are out there. They don't have to come from a horse background family, right? There are a lot of people that I know that are competitors and have gone on to, you know, to some pretty high status in their events, that didn't grow up with that. That came to them later in life, right? And that's the good thing about working with horses, is it brings that out in people. Sometimes that's all it needs that's all they need to bring out the best parts of them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's.
I would like to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's right, Nikki.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that might be something in the future we can maybe work towards, or, you know, that's something that I would like to see in our communities, and bringing that horse spirit back to our communities, and being able, like, we're seeing it in each of your sports as well. But I mean, we have so many people around here that I think would love to raise their kids in that way, or be able to have the ability to experience that on some level. So maybe that's something we'll think about for the future, and trying to keep things going, keep the ball rolling, so to speak. And not only that, but also to bring in all the teachings that we've been able to learn and experience along the way, right? To help people along as they make their own journeys in life. But I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. I know we made it work anyway. It was a little kind of a staggered start, but I mean, that's just to be expected. As Nathan said, we are working live, so it's like, we can pre-plan all you want, but life happens in between, right? And so I would like to thank you, Cheryl, for coming. I would like to thank you, Todd, for joining us today from your home fires and wherever you're at. And it was really nice experiencing through your point of view how you're living your lives, and how you're doing the sports that you love to do, and all that goes with that, that's entailed in that.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, Nikki, to the one story Winston was talking about with Lake Clifford Wuttunee, and you know that was where and the Baptiste family has I guess got caught on with Chuckwagon racing, was from Lake Clifford and the family of it there. So, you know, just like you're saying, how things are passed on. I think it's very important that we understand that, especially with our lives today, with our youth, and how they're getting too much into trouble, and how it's grounded us as people from my family with being in connection with our our horses, because we wouldn't know where we would be today if it wasn't for what we do, because there's just too much going on around us to distract us, as I say it is. So, you know, it's important that way. But the story I wanted to share at Winston was late Bruno Fiddler. used to help Clifford, and Calvin Sapp was telling me this story. And Calvin has been around Red Pheasant with late Gavin Wuttunee's family, and also with late Clifford, and also with us Baptiste family. So I guess this one day, late Bruno was passed out or sleeping in the back of the wagon, and late Clifford went to hook up his horses to go to a track to the race, and he didn't. No one checked in the box because they don't usually do that, I guess, or whatever had you at that time of the day. But long story short, Bruno Fiddler pops his head out in the middle of the freaking race there and tells late Clifford, "Easy now, pal, easy." He was in the whole race in the back of the wagon there the whole time, and I guess Clifford said, "Where the hell do you come from?"
Oh boy.
So this a little humor there, because I know, like, that's our nature of natives, is tease each other a little bit. So that's our joke of the day, I guess, or the story, I should say, not a joke.
Yeah, it's a story. It just happened in life. Like you said, life gets in the way sometimes. But I had a good story too. Nikki, did you have something that you wanted to say? Or Cheryl? Before we get off?
Your favorite horse? Mine by far is Slickerago. I've never ever, coming from a horse family, my dad always bought horses, right? And not once did he ever think to buy me one horse. But it so happened I ended up with Mansell Jr. and he ended up buying me my horse, my first.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you still have that horse, don't you?
I do, but there's another story to that. He's been saying, "Oh, we feed your horse so much; he eats more than all the horses together." And I got so mad, and I put it on Facebook that my horse was up for sale, and so many people are trying to buy my horse, but he's not for sale.
I remember seeing that, and I was like, "She's selling her horse? Maybe I should buy it. What the hell do I need with a racehorse?" But okay. Yeah.
Well, he's gonna grow old.
Yeah, I guess mine would have to be the horse that I have now, Lexi, and Winston's familiar with her. She's going to be 22 this year, and she's kind of like, she's had her day in the sun, and she's just retired and living the life. She's kind of runs the herd out there, and that's kind of all her responsibilities are now. Yeah, I mean, she's done good for us, so she can just retire her the rest of her years out, and yeah.
Well, every horse that my husband bought, we ended up having to rehabilitate them too when they come into our barn. Some were, you could tell they were abused, right? So it took like at least a year or two for them to come back and have their horse spirit back. So
Yeah,
so
that's another good example of how we help each other, right? How they don't just help us, but we can help them too. And as Todd said, a lot of these horses, this is maybe a second chance for them to, to have a good life, I guess. And that's what people don't realize when you hear about a lot of these people that are always protesting what's going on and the treatment. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and that these horses are treated better than usually us. I mean, well, I don't get a new set of shoes every 4 weeks myself for $150 a set. I'm just saying.
For sure.
Yeah. So, well, it was nice to have everybody on today, and I appreciate everyone for taking their time. Oh, yes.
Nikki, if we have time, Todd told me a good story. Now I want to tell him a good story.
Okay.
I used to take care of that old man that everybody loved around Battleford. Everybody knew him because he had a famous memory. He could remember stuff that happened back in 1915, who was at a wedding and what they wore. He could remember everything. And he was just a really good man. Every time there was a funeral or something, he was there. Everybody talk around, and he would be there talking. And it's just a beautiful old man. Anyway, I used to look after him sometimes for a month at a time. And then people would be phoning me and say, hey, when is Harry going to be leaving there? I want him to come and stay with me, you know. You know who I'm talking about, the old man there, Harry, the late Harry Brabant. And so one time, anyway, we were out at Uncle Gavin's place.
Harry
and we were
Boomball.
visiting there. Huh?
Larry Broombo? Or what did you say?
Harry Booba.
Oh, Harry Brabant. And we were over at Uncle Gavin's place. Yeah, no, but you know what? I gotta watch it. I can't tell the story over the thing, but it's not bad. It's just that I better not say too many names. But we were over at my Uncle Gavin's place, and we were coming out, and we were outside, and I took the old man, and I opened the truck door for him, and then my uncle came and said, "Hey, Winston," and I turned around and looked. In the meantime, the old man, he used to lift a leg up in the air like this, and he'd feel all over with his leg, just instead of using his arm. So he's hanging on to the truck door, and the thing up there, and with the other leg, that's where he started trying to see if he could find a hook anywhere. And he had his leg going up. I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Then I noticed that was him doing that. So I thought, well, he'll soon find out he can't do that. He'll just find out where the seat is. And so I didn't say anything. And then finally my uncle finished talking to me. I closed the door. He was inside. And I walked around to the other side. When I walked around to the other side, he was sitting there backwards, hanging onto the back of the seat, looking out the back window like that. And I knew I couldn't say anything because I knew he would get embarrassed. So I reached over there and I picked up his cane, was still on the floor there. And I said, "Harry, here's your cane." Oh, he took his cane, and right away he started poking around all over the place like that. And I didn't start driving. And then finally he realized that his feet were supposed to be down there. So he put his feet down there. Then we started driving away. And he was sitting there while we were driving. He was sitting like this. He was embarrassed, and he didn't want to show anything. So I didn't say anything. And finally, before we got into Battlefield, he said, "What kind of a vehicle is this?"
Yeah,
I
he
guess
used to stay with us too.
Does he ever come
He
to
used
you?
to stay with us too, old Harry.
Yeah, but does he ever come
Yeah,
to you
he
to
used to
visit
stay
you?
with my. No.
Yeah. Everybody wanted him to stay with them. And
Yeah.
they'd phone me up and say, "Don't keep him so long, Winston. We want him too." I thought that's so beautiful. What a nice way to be remembered as you get older, eh? We want him too. Let him come to us too. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we're all there. So happy to see all of you and Cheryl. Like
Nice.
I always remember Nikki talking about you and what you were doing there with your horses and everything like that. So now I finally had the chance to meet you.
Nice
And
to
Todd, yeah. It looks like Nathan's on the line now.
Yeah, I came to shut down the party. Before you guys all go and before we end this, I want to thank Todd Baptiste, our red pheasant champion. We always is our pride and joy when he's on the Chuckwagon trail there. So thanks for coming on, Todd. Cheryl, you as well, Cheryl
you.
Gopher, who represents Indigenous women and on the Indian Relay Trail and especially running for missing and murdered Indigenous women. So big shout out to you, Cheryl, for coming on here. Also Nikki, I was texting Nikki through the show, and I was like, "Nikki, you got to start your own podcast, man. Like you're good at this, and thank you for taking on the role of just being the host, I guess, for Mondays and Fridays with Uncle Winston." So, and Uncle Winston, as usual, thank you for coming on again on Mondays and Fridays, and you're always a joy to listen to. And I like hearing your stories out of nowhere when one comes up and you remember them. So they're nice to hear. And yeah, but I do got to cut it short, you guys. I actually have to get going here, but everyone who's listening, please tune in every day, 12 to 2, Monday to Friday. We are doing these Indigenous stories And yeah, we are live, so anything can happen. So like I said, we had little hiccups this morning, but it all worked out. But I'm gonna get Todd to say a few words, and then we'll go to Cheryl, and then we'll end it with Winston and Nikki. All right.
No, thank you again, Nathan, Nikki, Cheryl, and Winston. Haven't seen him for some bit. Actually, I used to go to school with his son Leslie. Him and I are the same age, so I remember when you guys used to live behind over there, the old place. So yeah, great to see you, and hopefully your health is doing good and everything's good with your family that way. Stay safe, and hope to see everybody somewhere on the road. And God bless you all. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed the show. And Nikki, you'll have to come over for some dim sum. I know how to make it now. Excellent.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Todd. I'm so glad to. The other day when Nikki and I were doing the show, she said, "What do you know about Todd?" Well, I said, "I know he's a Chuckwagon driver." She said, "There's so much about him." She started telling me everything you've done, what you've won, and that you're in the top 7 right across Canada. And so I dug you out on iPad today, and I put your name in there. Boy, you sure have done. I want to give you my congratulations that you've been doing all of that. And today, listening to you, I really loved the way that you spoke about not thinking you're too hot, or working with everybody, working with the horses, the barn crew, letting the people come and talk to you and everybody like that. I thought that, you're the perfect guy to represent the Chuckwagon racers. And so thank you for looking after yourself in such a powerful way. I appreciate that. Also, to all your relatives, I give them thanks too that they pass those teachings down. And this morning when we did the prayer, that's what we did. And I sang the drum song. Your Uncle Wilmer taught me that, and I sang that song, and I prayed for the ancestors at the same time, and everybody for the show too, because what a powerful group of people on that stage today. And Nikki, well, you know that I always think that you're just number one. What I'm thinking, Nikki, is because you mentioned that building a horse culture, like and that is so powerful, because I have not heard that across Canada, but yet that's big headlines. We build horse cultures, And then the other thing that somebody just said that you should be running too. And what was it, that powerful thing at the very end? I wrote it down, but I can't read my own writing. And I won't have to figure out my writing. Yeah, but anyway, congratulations to everybody for being here. I'm so happy to see all of you. And Nathan, you're doing very good stuff by doing what you're doing there. Thank you. All my relations. There you go. All my relations. That's how I take you all into my arms and love all of you like that. Thank you very much.
Hi.